This really is motoring from a very different age. No seat belts in here, obviously, just a big wheel to hold on to. I think these are absolutely fabulous. Welcome to the Hagerty Bull Market 2022. In this episode, we've selected this British beauty. This is an MGT type, specifically an MGTB, with its tall grille, big standalone headlights, wire wheels and flowing wings. It is easily marked out as the oldest car in this year's bull market. It cost £225 when it was new in 1939, and fewer than 400 of this particular variant were made. There was a TA as well, and after this there was a TC, a TD and a TF. There was no TE. But the reason that I think that Hagerty has chosen the TB is because, well, this was the start of the X-Pag engine. And the X-Pag would run all the way through to the TF, eventually becoming the X-Peg when it went up to 1500cc. This is 1250cc. And it was a really popular engine because compared to before, it had a bigger bore but a shorter stroke, so it was freer revving. It was more sort of capable of being tuned, but it was also more reliable. This has 54 brake horsepower, but will do 87 miles an hour apparently, which will feel pretty exciting, I should think. TBs are actually incredibly rare. TCs are fairly common, but TBs are pretty rare because they were launched in 1939 and they only produced, well, fewer than 400 before war broke out and the Abingdon factory had to be put to, well, different uses. Now, as incongruous as it might look having this TB pottering around a circuit, it's actually quite appropriate. Here to tell us more is John Mayhead, editor of the UK Hagerty Price Guide.
One of the main reasons we've chosen it this year is that the VSCC have just opened up the eligibility for cars, and it's now open to racing cars of pre-1955 vintage. And T-Series were raced quite heavily in the late 40s and 50s and 60s. And so actually they end up being quite a reasonably priced racing car that you can hill climb, that you can get into some of these vintage racing scene, and they are actually quite practical for doing that. This year we've chosen the MGTB especially, and the reason for the TB is mainly because it gets eligibility into all sorts of different events, including the Mille Miglia. It's the only one of the T-Series that was run in period in the Mille Miglia, and that just opens it up. They are therefore more expensive. The Hagerty Price Guide range for the MGTB is between £25,200 to £59,900. Whereas a TC starts at about £14,100 and a TD is even less than that, it's about £10,000. So they are more collectible, but there's very few of them.
Not exactly a cheap car then, but you can imagine it at Goodwood alongside very valuable Bugattis and BMWs of the era. I think this looks like a much more expensive car than it is, to be honest. The craftsmanship in it from Morris garages, wonderful. We've got a little 4-speed box. We've got synchron second, third and fourth, and they had 4-speed boxes all the way up to the TF as well. This really is motoring from a very different age. We've got a fly-off handbrake down there as well, which can confuse if you're not used to it. No seat belts in here, obviously, just a big wheel to hold on to. Driving this today brings back all sorts of memories for me because, well, I grew up in a family that loved MGs, and so occasionally I used to sort of trial one of these round fields. My mother still owns a TF, although sadly not running anymore, and it's fabulous. I mean, this big huge wheel right up close to my chest here, beautiful dials. Later they were moved to sort of 2 central ones here rather than one over here, and then the speedometer all the way over there. But what a view out. It's just, I think these are absolutely fabulous.
A rather lovely trip down memory lane for me then, but what do you think of these sorts of cars? Too old for you, or more interesting by the day? I'd love to know in the comments down below. Of course, you might be more of a V8 person, or maybe you're more disposed to slightly later British sports cars.
If so, be sure to look out for the rest of the Carfection films on the other entries in the 2022 Hagerty Bull Market. Every year, the Hagerty Bull Market highlights 10 cars that look likely to appreciate over the following 12 to 24 months. The experts behind it look at adverts, auctions, and Hagerty's own insurance valuations. The reason? Well, they say it's not so much for investment purposes, but more so that enthusiasts don't miss out. That car you always wanted? Well, it might be about to go from affordable to out of reach, so buy now if you can. This year, well, I think it is a particularly fine herd of headlights, and Carfection is going to look at them one by one, hopefully imparting a few little interesting facts along the way. Cool. Hello. Thank you very much indeed for watching that. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got 10 in this series, so do make sure you are subscribed to Carfection. Have a look at the Hagerty articles as well, because they've written about them so frequently more depth than I had time to talk about in some of the cars, so have a look at those as well. We've got links to all those in the description down below. So yeah, there we go. Hope you enjoy it. See you next time.